There we go, let's get started. Hello everyone.
Hello everyone. Today we're discussing not the upcoming birthday of Charlotte, but you should know that she'll be celebrating.
Thank you for remembering. It's on Saturday.
So, but also we'll be discussing the quote from the Gospel of John, Quid Est Veritas, which in English means, what is truth? In the audio part of our discussion, Charlotte mentioned something that is worth discussing. For example, if we speak about the truth and we juxtapose the truth and something delusional, we say that something delusional is not supported by our experience, which is interesting. And the question is, how can we safely say that something does not exist if it's not supported by our experience?
Well, this is kind of, just to go back to what we were talking about, because we kind of have a broad thing here, something that contradicts reality. Because at the end of the audio portion, we were talking about people who are, let's say, suffering from delusions. So for example, I'm just trying to think of how to word this. There are people with, delusions, kind of grand conspiracy theories, so is in control of the world, or like, I am God, I know we're kind of thinking, when we talk about suppression,
for example,
stuff like that.
Let's take this example. Someone says, I am God. How do we know that the person is not really God?
Exactly. We don't have, who's to say, basically here. But
says who,
I think there is, I know we all know this, but of course there are things where it's just like, kind of the example I gave earlier in the audio part, if someone says to you, I know you're trying to like steal my brain and sell my thoughts or something like this, and you're controlling my brain. I don't think this is like a truth worth acknowledging, but pure and utter insanity, to use quite an impolite term.
What makes you think so?
Because it's not true.
How do you know?
A person can't control someone's brain.
Then again, just a very simple question. How do you know that a person can't control? It's beyond your, experience, right? So it's beyond, you've never met a person who can truly control, in your opinion, someone else's thoughts, yeah?
Sure, and I'm old enough to have read
and does it mean
that of life.
Does it mean that by simply saying that I have not met yet one single person who would control someone else's thoughts, that we can truly prove some non-existence? Or to rephrase it, can we really prove some non-existence? What does it mean to prove something?
Well, there's no clouds in the sky from where I can see. I can't see any.
There is
not, I'm trying to think of something that's not here. There is not a fox on this table.
So let me draw an interesting line here, or let me explain. So when I speak about the truth and reality, actually we're talking about we're talking about two different things, completely different things. Have you noticed that the truth and reality are different things? So when it comes to the truth, it's something that we can discuss. If we cannot discuss it verbally, then it's ineffable truth, which is a subtype of truth, which maybe should be looked in the reality. Well, the reality is actually what? It's something that exists, something that is studied by science. So we study it, we point at it, we finger point at reality. For example, you showed me no cloud outside. So no cloud, okay. So it's the reality in a sense that it can be pointed at. While the truth, if it's some kind of a logical truth, it should be proved logically, verbally. And the question is, the limitations of our language. Can we literally speak about something which is beyond our scope? Which is beyond our human ideas, like, for example, divine. Like, philosophers do that.
I was going to say, I guess people do, rather than
theologians do that. Philosophers do that. But do they truly discuss what they are discussing? That's the point.
What does that mean?
I mean, for example, I'm sorry for elevating the level of our discussion even further.
That's okay.
It literally means that when, for example, theologians discuss God, or when philosophers discuss absolute or something else, or truth, do they really grasp the essence of it, or do they simply define something through something else?
Well, like you were talking about earlier with metaphor,
Yeah.
but who's to say?
Yeah. So maybe we are to judge. Maybe we as humans are to judge.
Yeah, right. Who's to say? I feel like that's kind of what it all boils down to, right? Who's to say?
So if it's possible, let's imagine for a sec that it's possible to find the truth, yeah? Because otherwise it makes no sense to discuss it, yeah? So if we are able to do it, so what do you think? Do philosophers, theologians, etc., define the truth, or they simply avoid it by defining it through something else? So they avoid the essence and they use some other metaphors, they use some other propositions just to replace the truth with something else. For example, they say God is all about omnipresence, or God is all about all benevolence, etc. So by adding something to it, by choosing something else, they simply gradually replace the essence of God. And the same holds true for philosophers, when they take one concept and replace it with another concept. So what do you think?
I mean, I think for the layperson, which is who I'm representing here, I think we use kind of the opposite thought process to that, which I kind of touched upon earlier, because you asked me at the beginning of today, I think you asked me, what is the truth, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the truth?
I think
so. Going back to this question and bearing in mind our previous discussion, how would you answer this question?
Well, I think for the average person, Amy, it's just reality.
Reality. The truth equals reality. So, and can we imagine anything non-real? And if it's non-real, isn't it part of our mental reality, of our imagination?
Yeah, but imagination, I think, isn't really often described as like reality.
It is also reality.
Yeah,
so reality does not boil down only to actuality. So we discuss it. So we have actuality if we want to be specific, and if we want to speak about only material objects, etc. Or the so-called space-time continuum, time-space continuum, yeah? But we also have reality, like mental reality.
I mean, like, if I imagine a dragon, it doesn't mean that dragons are real, but it means the reality is that I'm imagining something.
This is very interesting, because you jump from one idea to another idea, which I'd like to just point at. So you say, what you literally say, correct me if I'm wrong, if you imagine some imaginary dragon or whatever, and what was the second part of it? And you cannot find it in the world?
No, if I imagine, like, for example, a dragon,
if you imagine, okay, yeah, if you imagine,
I'm imagining a dragon.
You haven't met a dragon in your real life. You haven't heard of anyone meeting a dragon in your real life yet. I would add yet. And then you imagine some dragon. Does it literally prove that there are no dragons?
No, it just proves that I'm imagining it. It doesn't prove anything. The reality is that I'm imagining a dragon.
But if you imagine something that is not yet found, it does not literally prove that it does not exist. Even in this time-space continuum.
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
I'm saying that if we haven't found something yet, for example, when Gagarin went to the outer, just to space, yeah. Some people asked him, like, does God exist? And he says, I haven't found him anywhere. So this kind of proof, when we say that we haven't found yet the answer, does it prove the absence of the answer? Or the absence, of the object described?
That's not really what I was saying anyway, to be fair. So, like when I said, well, imagination exists in reality, imagination is reality in the sense that what we imagine is in the reality is that we are imagining something. Not that there isn't something. So I can imagine an egg. That doesn't mean I'm saying that eggs aren't real. It just means reality is
yeah,
real.
So you imagine it and you treat it differently, yeah? So you think that by imagining it, you state that, well, it's not the reality. It's just your imagination.
Yeah, the reality is that I'm imagining something.
But interestingly, if we take the concept of multiverse, you will have different types of realities that are absolutely like actualities that would, by definition, include all other realities, including our mental reality.
Okay. I don't believe in the multiverse.
But again, by saying that it does not exist, how do we know that something does not exist? So what I'm saying, this is a simple thing I'm trying to point. It maybe sounds weird, but what I'm trying to say is that we can safely say only something which is, I mean, scientifically proved, yeah, can be something only that is material, that can be pointed at, yeah, so that we can experience, we can study by using our methods, yeah. Well, logically we can construct anything, yeah. We can say that a non-existent God, for example, or God that contradicts himself. Can we say this sentence?
You can say anything you want.
Easily.
Words.
Easily. Yeah. So we can construct anything. So does it mean that when we point at something, it exists? Yeah, it's obvious. But if we cannot point at it, does it mean that it does not exist?
Does anyone say that? I think I've only heard this argument in regards to like this kind of discussion.
Yeah. I'm just trying to make philosophers and theologians be more careful with their language and trying to be more specific, because even when I think Heidegger, we mentioned Heidegger today.
Yeah, I just had his page
He
up,
tried his best to use his language. He believed that the language is the house of the world. By saying this, he meant that by studying the structure of the language, we can dive deeper and we can understand the reality. So the problem is that even Heidegger failed to uncover this truth, which he defined according to the etymology of the Greek word aletheia, which literally means the hidden, the unhidden one. The unhidden one which cannot be hidden. Yeah, so he said that by revealing the truth, by unhiding it, so to speak, we can point at it. But the problem is that he did not ask himself whether language has its own limitations, where he's truly able to approach it, or is it simply just a mental game or a language game?
Yeah, it kind of wants to takes me to the last question, because let's say in the average world, there isn't really a discussion about what truth is or isn't. So this kind of whole discourse...
There are different discussions. If you watch Lex Friedman YouTube channel, he invites so many physicians, philosophers, etc.
Yeah, but not philosophers.
Not philosophers.
Yeah, people who are not philosophers.
I mean, just lay people.
Yeah, that's what I mean by the average person. This is not like a discourse in everyday life. What is the goal of this question, this discussion?
I think at least the way I perceive it, the goal of this discussion is to find some common ground. Because we feel unsafe when we do not know something. I mean, our brain is so insecure when we do not know something. And all neuroses, for example, and all our mental problems are rooted in the fact that we are expecting something and we do not know what it might be. And by finding this common ground, by at least trying to understand what we're talking about, trying to understand what we understand by the truth by default, we can find some peace in ourselves and maybe mutual agreement, or maybe we will find ourselves speaking the same language.
I like that. Okay, so the goal is peace.
Yes, peace.
One of them.
Yes.
I appreciate that. All right.
And thank you for speaking the same language with me and having a good
Thank you.
And being on the same plate with us.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, my dears. Bye.